I have so many episodes to catch up on. I'm so excited. Like I'm just letting it run, and then I'm just gonna have just a fantastic day.
Okay. Well, hey, we're just after the top of the hour here. Might as well get started. We've got a good amount of folks here in the audience as well. So, welcome to another town hall. Deets, or what's the deets? Talking to you fine people here in the DAO. I'm sure we'll have some more join as we get going. Today, not too much on the agenda. Just wanted to give kind of quick updates on some things, and then Matt and I had talked about continuing the discussion from the text channels from earlier this week regarding ETH staking and our assets that we have available as well. So I guess first, to just kind of kick things off, we'll be looking at having the last mint completed for LPs, which also ends admissions for us. So really kind of exciting last step here. That's the kind of fulfillment of KIP 19, 18. I don't have it up in front of me. I apologize. But yeah, we'll be seeing a mint of about, I think it's something like 4,200 Rook. That'll cover the last 2 weeks of Act 5 and then the duration of the end of Act time through the end of the snapshot, making that KIP official. So you'll see that happen. We've since the end of the snapshot, we've seen the deposit function of our LPs turned off as well. So you won't see new deposits available for our LPs as that gets phased out. And then we'll also begin to start pulling treasury assets out of those LPs as well. So yeah, more updates to come on that. But with the mint happening and us having a final number decided and everything, it steps in the great direction of us being turning the Rook token into something that is deflationary. So exciting there. Other updates, for folks that weren't on the governance workshop on Wednesday, we released kind of that first iteration of the Q1 report. It's got a lot of great information in it. Troy, if I can ask you while I'm going through the agenda, if you can just kind of repost that in voice chat for folks that want to go through that today.
Sure.
Or at their own kind of leisure. So yeah, I would recommend going through that. I'll also be posting the YouTube video of the governance workshop for folks that want to listen to that as well. So I've got that ready to go as well. And then the last update, from that, you'll still see you'll see an update on the KIP 12 extension draft on the forum. That'll take some kind of key points from that update and some lessons learned, and if there's any modifications to responsibilities and stuff as a part of that, will be included in that extension draft. But I'm very excited to see, personally, my opinion, I'm very excited to see that KIP 12 be extended. Just my own personal experience of getting to work alongside Hazard and Joey have been fantastic. So I'm 100% in full support of extending KIP 12. So I think that's the kind of the long and short of the updates that we have. If you hadn't seen, we announced a few hires that had happened prior to KIP 12 expiring. But folks that had been either working part-time with us or been on contracts that we have now moved to full-time. So really excited. I think if you looked back, this week we announced Perry and Marco. These guys have been fantastic and really happy to have them here on the team. So really excited about that. And I think that's all of our updates that we've got today. Troy, am I forgetting anything? I'm blanking right now.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's pretty much just a grind.
Awesome.
Grinding to get everything, to get the coordination game out right now.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's we'll be sharing some information on that in the next short amount of time. Um, I'm excited for things like the pilot program to get going, and we'll be sharing a cool blog post on the participants and what the program's going to fully entail. So I'm excited for that to come out as well. But I think that's about it. So why don't we kind of hit the agenda topic of today, which is kind of looking at our assets and specifically in ETH and kind of continuing that discussion around uh, ETH staking and making our treasury kind of productive again. So Matt, you mind if I just kind of hand this off to you to give us kind of a quick overview update of what things look like?
Sure thing. Yeah, so before you even kind of take a deep dive into that, a couple of house cleaning things. I looked up the link to the Q1 report. I really encourage everybody to kind of look into that. I know we've had questions over time about a lot of different things, from our performance on certain investments to just how we're paying people and kind of structuring around that. And so if you weren't able to join the governance call the other day on Wednesday, we kind of reviewed that, but definitely take a look at that. It's probably going to answer a lot of questions. It's going to give you a lot of insight into how the team's operating, how we're performing just as a DAO and protocol. So it's really good. And then just kind of give people a heads up, I will be developing a more formal and hopefully in-depth kind of quarterly report that is definitely going to have some of the similar things, but it's also going to produce financial statements and some other more in-depth analyses that we can kind of just give additional transparency and insight into how we're performing. So I guess on that front, and then before I kind of get into deployment of assets, I think it's important to just highlight that with us sunsetting the vaults, we are going to have access to a lot more funds. And so I think I mentioned this on another call, but I've been working with somebody who has not been announced as kind of an expert contractor that we're working with. He is basically a Chad from a data analytics standpoint, and he's been working with me to understand how much of those balances have been used for flash loan purposes, how much revenue we could be producing off of those, and what's the opportunity cost of not. And so I had a call with him earlier today and really kind of narrowed down, those results and kind of looked and put things on a chart where we basically looked at, okay, here's the opportunity cost and here's the revenue, and what point does this not become a feasible, viable option for us to keep our funds in there. So it's going to be much, much, much lower than the $5 million per asset. So we should have a lot more capital than even we were originally anticipating to start kind of deploying. So if anybody's interested in that, again, more to come on that. I don't want to reveal too much just yet, just because I know he probably needs to still verify some of his numbers, and just we need to kind of put pen to paper. But there's already kind of a document on understanding our proposal, kind of being formed around that. So more to come. And then I guess, kind of diving into just, ETH staking, deploying our ETH. I think that's probably priority number one, since that's about, 35% of our assets, at least through the end of the quarter. I think there's a lot of different options that I at least have high level understanding of, but I really want to make this a community effort where we're all kind of analyzing the different options together, really making sure that we're not just looking at things that in too much of a silo. So off the top of my mind, there's probably 4 to 6 viable reputable ETH staking platforms that we could probably analyze as part of this. I've already started doing that. We'll say that stake wise, let me see if I have this available. Which is a very big one, very reputable, from what I understand, and based on our conversations with them. We've been talking with them for a little bit, and they've already provided this information, which I'm about to drop here, on their ideas and just kind of a little bit of background on them as a protocol. So I think they're definitely a good option that we'll kind of explore in relation to others. So know that that's kind of on the horizon. And then one of the people I've been kind of in contact with them there has already agreed to come in for an AMA. I'm also talking to Lido and potentially Rocket Pool about doing the same thing. So that way we can really kind of hear straight from the horse's mouth, what their options are and really why maybe they're the best option to go with. And probably more importantly, even from a protocol investing level, that's one aspect of it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people here in the greater community that are probably interested in the merge and just hearing more about that and its impact on staking rewards. I know I'm definitely going to be, taking advantage of that as this kind of as we get closer to that. So it'll just be good information for the community to have in general. But lots to come on there. But just kind of wanted to highlight that, part of the lab's budget, which you can kind of take a look at, the treasury team function, whatever you want to call it, is going to have, budget to incentivize communities through bounties or just kind of rewards for people who want to come in and actually do some analysis, assist on these different types of efforts. So, I threw that out in the chat the other day, but figured I would also just kind of mention, if anybody's interested in just learning more, trying to put, their expertise to, and actually applying it, please reach out, or, we can kind of just collab, in the public a little bit more. So whatever you guys feel, but know that there is some money up for grabs if you're interested in kind of taking part. So with that being said, I have ideas, I have things that are kind of underway, but I would love if anybody has strong feelings about different protocols, options, or just thoughts about any of the staking providers or ETH deployment options. Like, would love anybody to come up stage and kind of throw out their thoughts.
Yeah, so why don't we go on ahead? If you have some thoughts about ETH staking and want to share it with the community, go on ahead, raise your hand. We'll call you on up here. If not, we can kind of trust Matt to kind of take the charge on this, and for folks that want to work kind of asynchronously with him, and he mentioned kind of the grants available. That's fantastic, but that there was some interesting kind of positions put forward on some of the opportunities out there, and so just if folks wanted to kind of come up, rationalize what they were thinking, happy to hear them out.
Yeah, maybe if anybody is interested in raising their hand or kind of exploring that more, maybe I'll talk a little bit about how I'm thinking about it, and people can kind of chime in if they feel like it's necessary. But really, what I'm going to basically do is kind of put these different options on a matrix and kind of analyze them in relation to each other. I think it's probably important to note that going with one single provider is probably not the best move, just from a smart contract risk, but from just a concentration risk in general. So I imagine in the end, we'll probably have multiple staker providing services, whatever you want to call it, that we go with, and we'll probably look at them in relation to, like, okay, here's our lower risk staking option, here's our moderate, and here's our higher risk, and there's different ways to do that. It doesn't necessarily even have to be just staking providers. It could be other protocols that are using ETH in different, more creative ways. So just one thing to consider. But from my perspective, looking at like the matrix, I'm going to kind of add weights behind these different attributes. But the attributes I've kind of identified now are really, a lot of them are interrelated, but at a high level, it's really looking at what are the returns for that, what's the APY, what are the fees associated with it, how much liquidity is there on the staking derivatives that they have or may not have, any other parts of the tokenomics that are maybe give it a little bit more juice to those APYs that we should be considering. How decentralized is the protocol? How decentralized will they be? I think it is maybe even a better question to ask. What are the other security or risk vectors that we need to be considering? Composability and just auto compounding. How much effort is required by the team to kind of rebalance, reshift, and compound? So those are some of the other attributes. And if anybody has any strong thoughts about ones I'm missing or how to weight those, I think we probably all agree that return is probably at the top of the list, if not second at the very least. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But if anybody has any strong thoughts, would love to hear those now on kind of those attributes.
Santh, come on up.
Yeah, just a quick thought. I mean, everything you've been mentioning is, on my mind about smart contract risk, and all the things that we should be considering. But I was also thinking of, is there any way we can think of this kind of like CVX in terms of like strategic partnerships? Like, the DAO isn't it? KeeperDAO is not individual. It's not like the same decision that I or you or anyone on this call would be making when staking our own ETH. But like, if Lido would, if they have to make trades through their DAO, would they be utilizing KeeperDAO technology? Can we use some sort of leverage and strategic partnerships, and that could be something that would influence our decision about where to stake? Is that something that people have been thinking about?
I think it's absolutely an amazing question, and probably one that's kind of top of mind that I didn't really mention. And really, it's because ETH stakers are kind of an interesting thing, and I mentioned this in the chat, is we have fundamentally taken a stance that MEV it belongs to the people that are initiating, and not necessarily the miners, or in this case, the validators. And so, I think that these staker providers and those protocols, they kind of understand the power that they could be wielding. I know Hazard and I have had direct conversations with Stakewise as well as Lido, like the founder of Lido more particularly, and they understand, and they're really not even sure what like their process is going to be, but they understand that it's going to be a massive centralization vector if they do kind of proceed with extracting MEV from their level. But it's going to be this competitive moat that one protocol can build up if they start doing it. So it's going to be an interesting landscape to kind of watch and see. And we are kind of having those conversations to understand what that landscape could shape out to be. So it makes it kind of complicated to understand from like an integration standpoint what we can do while still kind of following our core beliefs that kind of make us who we are. So it is very complicated. I don't have the answer now, but I think looking outside of like what we would expect from an MEV extraction standpoint, I think there's probably ways that we can explore more about what's going on. Like top of mind, I don't know. I know I'm going to work with Dietz and Troy on understanding what other integration possibilities there may be, just because they're going to really have a good idea of that as well. But one thing I'm considering that's not even necessarily like a directly working with a staking provider is, I know Index Co-op, for instance, they have this. I have to drop it if I can find it in a second. But basically, it's a way where you can take staked ETH, deposit in Aave, and borrow ETH against that and kind of leverage up a little bit. And like that would definitely be more of a high risk, but we could also go to Index Co-op and say, well, if you want us to kind of deposit into this product that you guys are offering, we'd also like to be integrated with you guys to really, whenever you guys are rebalancing, to have that order flow route through us. So even if we are assuming a little bit more risk by leveraging to some degree, what we're kind of staking, we are going to, that risk is minimized by the order flow that we're capturing elsewhere. So it's definitely top of mind. If you were to just kind of look at it from an ETH staking provider standpoint, the conversation becomes a little bit more diluted from an integration standpoint. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit more context onto, let's call it, partnership conversations that at least arose from the CVX opportunities. And what we've seen typically, and something that I'm guessing would probably be built into, if there was a larger partnership associated with us staking our assets somewhere, something that we talk about, is kind of their native token rewards that we would either be receiving as interest or as an incentive to, partner with them. And so looking at kind of how that impacts us in terms of, accumulating assets, if this is something that we now are kind of taking, a directional bet on one of these tokens or one of these protocols tokens that we then, there might be terms. And this is what's, my lessons learned from kind of, looking around for partners on the CVX votes. Most people don't want us to sell those tokens. And so, having a year-long lockup has been a frequent part of those conversations, minimum as well. So, I think that kind of looks more into kind of what kind of interest or revenue we're looking to gain, or what types of it we're looking to gain from staking, these treasury assets. If it's just trying to be in the same token that we're staking, if we're staking ETH, we're getting ETH back, or, just similar to say what Maple did with us, which was, we get both, return on our investments in that staked token as well as the native protocol token as well. So, I think a strategy around that probably needs to be understood of, well, here's what we've done, say with revenue from CVX, we've flipped it for Rook, or we've held additional CVX that we've received. So I think a broader kind of more formalized strategy for like, okay, so if we choose one of these protocols and, they're giving us extra incentives in their native token, are we okay with the terms that are going to come with that as well? And so I think these are all just kind of things we need to think about. As you know, because I agree. I think that there is awesome and vast opportunity for us to use these assets to not just get revenue, but to increase partnerships and drive order flow through our protocol. It's just looking at, okay, well, what are we going to do with these assets? Are we okay with taking on, that risk or hopefully that reward of locking up these assets, and just kind of looking at the bigger picture of that as well. I hope that didn't go too much side tangent there, Seth.
Yeah, no, and I'd like to add, it's typically, they are offering to put some volume through the hiding game, coordination game, but from our discussions, it's not a significant number, correct, Dietz, where it really moves the needle.
Yeah, and that was based off the CVX stuff. I mean, someone more like Set Protocol, or that powers Index Co-op, or some of these staking opportunities that need to rebalance, or if there's leverage stuff that has liquidations or needs to kind of keep to an oracle or something like that. Again, those are more regular opportunities. The opportunities off of CVX, because of its size and things, wasn't as order flow heavy as some of these kind of opportunities with, say, our ETH is.
And the other point there is, like, as far as using the CVX for partnerships, like, we have a pretty strong value proposition right now when talking to these protocols. Like, they're all interested in integrating with us at some level at some point. So I don't know that the CVX aspect to that really is needed to move the needle there, I guess.
Cynthia, do you have any follow-up for that? Possibly not.
Okay. You asking me?
Yeah, I was saying if you had a follow-up question or anything after that little bit of additional info came forward.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this just the last few minutes have made me like rethink KeeperDAO's marketing strategy, and just like, I guess I've been a little slow to realize this, but yeah, the integrations are key, and driving order flow through these partnerships as much as possible is going to be really awesome, and like that we can earn yield on our ETH, but also gain order flow through some other protocols is a huge win-win that I don't see other protocols being able to utilize. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned this a couple times, but I think the value of our treasury isn't just in the number that you see on the screen, that when you sign in the Zap or whatever it may be. A lot of it, I see it as kind of a carrot that we dangle in front of different protocols that are trying to have our money deposited into theirs. And we say, hey, if you want this, like, we have a great suite of products. We have a lot of value that we can bring to you and your users in more ways than one. So, like, let's all win together. And so instead of us just depositing money into your, into your LP or whatever it may be, let's do something more together. Let's deepen our relationship. And those are the types of things that, like, I want to do with the treasury is not just get return, but really secure order flow with that as well. It's kind of dual purpose in my mind. But unless anybody else has anything to say about the quarterly report or staking or really kind of being a part of this process, again, money up for grabs if anybody's really interested. Even if you're just kind of passively hearing this and just have some ideas but don't really want to speak up, shoot me some ideas. Happy to hear them. My DMs are open anytime.
Awesome. Hey, we got handsome Adam up here. Adam, what you got for us?
Hey guys. I'm actually here on behalf of another DAO. I've been looking into you guys for the past, I don't know, maybe 24 hours. So just so I understand, we're looking for opportunities to stake right now and offer. When I say we, I'm speaking to Royal We as in you, are looking for opportunities to stake in protocols and also offer the products that you guys have to boost their treasury.
Oh, so I think you got the first part of that right, is that we'll have treasury assets that we're going to be looking to make more productive. The second half is that we'll have, what we're calling, our coordination layer that will be able to plug into just about any protocol that has kind of on-chain order flow or specific, multiple types of transactions that we're, that we can look to kind of improve on, bring, kind of either price improvement or some kind of recapturing of MEV to their users or to the protocol specifically itself. And so that, it's much more of a, kind of like a general opportunity instead of like, okay, well, I'm going to give you this specific product right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think we said. I think we're on the same page.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate
so
it.
You said you're here on behalf of another DAO. Who are you here from?
Congruent.
Awesome. Well, hey, happy to have you here, and thanks for looking into us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For sure.
Yeah.
You got any other questions for us or anything while you're up here? If not, then I'm going to go ahead and quickly clear the stage. Synth, you got anything else before I move you back to the audience here?
No, you can kick me. It's okay.
No problem, bud. All right. Yeah. So I guess, big thanks to Matt for kind of running through that, and we'll hopefully see some more progress on treasury assets becoming productive. Does anyone else have any kind of final thoughts on, ETH staking as kind of opportunity number one in terms of, treasury assets? Great. Well, I'm excited to see the work that comes from Matt and the group that he starts putting together here. I'm happy to open up the floor here and open up for any other topics of discussion that people want to bring up for Town Hall today. So if you've got questions or other, opportunities that you want to discuss, Shahar, I'm going to call you up first. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sweet. I was just wondering, just looking through the quarterly report, wondering what is Dean's sort of plan and what he's working on, because I didn't see much about that in the quarterly report. And as we get very close to launch, this seems like the opportune time to start doing some marketing and building awareness and, securing order flow, user acquisition, that kind of thing. So I know that the community, I've seen various people, post ideas and stuff, and just wondering if there's anything could be shared as, what the plan is there.
So you're looking for what you're saying is like you want to hear what Dean's marketing plan is for our launch.
Yeah, well, we have a full-time marketing manager, right? So what is he doing?
Well, it looks like I got Hazard up here. Hazard, do you want to share an update on that?
Sure. So I can speak to this. So for full context, so Dean began to, I think he started working maybe 3 weeks ago. So, it does take time for people to begin to, be as productive as you might want and share out some of the things they've done. Dean, in my experience, has gone from basically first conversation to being productive, like faster than 95% of people I've worked with. I mean, he knew what he wanted to own and started producing results pretty much immediately. I think the main reason that there wasn't an aspect in the quarterly report on that is because, like I said, Dean just really began his work very recently. But he has already created several very interesting deliverables, and so I think the missing piece here is to share maybe some of that. So I don't know, what form would you want that to take? I guess? Like, would you want to see, because obviously there is a marketing plan, but we haven't launched and such like stuff like that. But would you want to kind of have Dean present a little bit about what a game plan is, or would you just rather see the game plan be carried out in a way that is visible?
Just a quick input here. I think Dean is going to be joining us here in a second. Just throwing it out there.
Perfect. Well, yeah, hearing from him directly would be ideal. I think either one. I mean, obviously, I care more about the plan being carried out than just hearing the plan. But I think it would serve. I think it would serve the community to hear, what the plan is, and that there is a plan and stuff like that. Because I just, people have been sharing, kind of ideas for or kind of opportunities perhaps for engagement, with things that get posted on Twitter, people, wondering out loud about, how to fix problems with MEV. So yeah, I think, I don't want to speak for the whole community, but I'll just speak for me. It would make me feel more excited and comfortable, right? To hear, that we have a marketing plan ahead of, our major Keystone product launch.
And it looks like we've got Dean up here on stage. Dean, just to quickly level set for you. I think Shahar's last little wrap up there kind of encapsulated it. But just looking at kind of, what is marketing going to be looking like for us up ahead?
Deets, thanks for that. Great question, Shahar. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
Great. Apologies if it's a bit quiet. It's 5:30 a.m., but I'll do my best. Marketing. Great questions. The best product in the world without marketing launches to crickets. So it's really important that we make sure we have marketing as strong as a product, which is currently a work in progress. One of the things that we've been discussing internally is raising the bar of marketing standards in the DeFi space. You may have noticed that the one who shouts the loudest or memes the best wins, and that sometimes has a correlation to price. That's great, and that's the ultimate objective, capital gains on Rook price, but there's also strategic plays to make sure that we have the fundamentals in place, because when this market fluctuates, as it does, and there's a lot of volatility, no matter how good or strong we are, that will affect the price. We want something that's fundamentally strong enough to be buoyant through those turbulent price fluctuations, so we're still strong. It's not so much a macroeconomic thing, it's our tech's good, our partners there, we've got deal flow, and it insulates our price as the markets fluctuate. In answering your question, what are we doing? I'll try and be as succinct as I can. We are finding out who cares about the technology we are making, the solutions we are trying to solve for the problems they have. Are these problems the highest pain points that they have? Nice to have is not the same as I must have. There's vitamin and then there's painkiller. Are we a vitamin or are we a painkiller? Apologies. Painkiller marketing, making sure that we get our product into the hands of them. We talk to them about the points that are important to them on the channels that they can be found in the terminology that they understand. We simplify a lot of the sophisticated tech, because simple is sophisticated, so most people can understand it. We split it up from B2B to B2C because we have a trading app and we also have our institutional solutions. So all of that, once you get answers to questions about all those points I just raised, it starts to map what you should say, where you should say it, how you should say it, what format do they like to consume their content. So let's say if it's a B2C trading platform, it's crypto Twitter. And maybe let's say it's memes, for example, if research says memes is what makes price rally, or this is what creates engagement. Then we have funnels, sales funnels, how to attract cold traffic into warm, happy, paying customers. So all of this is a work in progress right now. It's quite a big piece. And apologies, it's silent because the nature of this is it needs to be silent as we build our it's espionage, it's corporate espionage. We're doing research, we're understanding, we're dropping in on the competition, we're looking at their strengths and weaknesses, we're analyzing that, we're looking internally to see, will we beat that? Is this something we should not talk about? What do we amplify? A longer story short, these are all the things that are in motion, but once it's all done and the data points are in, marketing with data points, not marketing with, oh, this is hot, let's go with that, shiny new object. It's important we do, that's called trend following, and you should follow that, but having a science to the marketing and building new standards. I came from advertising agency and digital marketing agency, and there's a science to good marketing, and we're trying to follow that creed, so to speak, in our program, and more color will come as we not sure much I can say, as we start to reshape the new face of Rook, aka rebrand. I hope that answers the questions. Apologies, it was quite long.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you hopping up here, and I know it's early for you. And I know Priest, I'm going to call you up. You had your hand up for a question next. Priest, you want to come up and ask your question?
Sorry, this is going into a somewhat different direction, if that's all right.
Can I just, Shahar, you want to quickly raise your hand if you have a follow-up on that? Okay, cool. Priest, why don't you go on ahead?
Yeah, so it's been like a day since the report dropped, so I had time to digest it a bit. And I've noticed the coordination game is kind of explicitly not mentioned very frequently in there. And I believe I understood at the beginning the last real deadline we had was Q4, and then it was implicitly said it would come out early Q1 by Jay-Z, by kind of hinting at that they don't like to release over holiday periods like Christmas. And afterwards, obviously, we had the audits, which are variables outside of the team's control. So I can understand we can't really give a timeline because the audits are not really under our own discretion. We don't really have a good estimation of how long it would take. But now that kind of all of that is out of the way, is there any specific reason for not giving the community a better, a guiding idea of when we can expect the product launch?
I think the main reason is, I know the main reason is because this is not just a product launch. It's a launch of infrastructure, integration of partners. It's a product launch, and it's a marketing launch and a brand launch in a way. But there's a lot of shit launching at the same time, and there's many dependencies between these things. So marketing will need to have, trivial things like screenshots are going to need to be of the correct, final version of things. Copy will need to be written that has the correct naming of things. There's going to need to be the proper, there's plenty of bug fixing happening. There's plenty of polishing happening, making sure that the design languages are in agreement and everything is working and looking good. You'd be checking on partners, making sure that they're good. There's a lot sort of involved. It's not probably how we'd, launch a product under normal circumstances, but we really want a lot of these threads to come together. And so for that reason, mostly, we don't want to set a date that might be, might not get met for a variety of reasons, because all of those dependencies mean there's many more ways for that, a potential for delay to actually happen, right? So it's quite a complex launch. That's nobody's favorite thing. And to the point about the end of the year, I think for key infrastructure being deployed, I think maybe that's part of what was meant. And like I've been saying, it's as coordination game is a process. That's true, and it's been a process for most of this quarter. But there will be a launch, and that part won't be a process. It's a process to getting there. It's been playing out.
For sure. I just want to push back a little bit on that, because I think most launches in the space are not really that easy. Of course, you can just push a new product, like a new AMM, and it's just the code that's being launched, and you can open up the public execution. And I understand that the coordination game is a little bit more complicated than that, but I would still, even most complex projects do still have an internal deadline that you can expect to launch it by. And I would be wondering if KeeperDAO doesn't have some sort of similar internal deadline that you expect it to launch by. To give the community some sort of Like, are we going to launch in Q2? Are we going to launch in Q3? Is it coming in 2022? It's obviously a little bit of satiric take because we're hopefully going to launch in 2022, but like just like some rough guideline.
Yeah, so I'm not going to give guidelines in this meeting because it frankly because it impacts the way that marketing campaign could be run, right? But I can tell you that there is a sense and a sort of a rough deadline. But like I said, there's a lot of contingencies, and the thing has been, I mean, it always is, when we communicate expectations, vague or not. Those sort of end up taken as like do-by dates. And the thing is that, I mean, we're acting in the best interest of any launch and trying to make sure that things go well. And so if it's the case that it's not ready or that there's other things that need to be done, then, we'll have to do those things. So yes, of course, there's internal deadlines and things, but those deadlines can move. It depends on the situation. It depends on the dependencies. I mean, this is not super uncommon if you think of, I don't know, I could think of, I mean, Uniswap v3 was a long time in the making. I think staking for Chainlink has been sort of a white whale for a long time. If you think about like things like media or video games, so how long has it taken to sort of produce the most recent Zelda game or something? There's multiple delays and things, and this is not unique to our industry. This is certainly on a smaller scale than that, or some of those things. But it's quite a complex thing. So yes, of course, we have internal deadlines. It's a challenging thing. I mean, it's to communicate that out in a way that's good. We haven't found the right super best formula for that because I'm not super in love with not communicating very much. And having these kinds of questions either. I mean, I know what that's like. I wish there was a better way for this. And for what it's worth, which maybe not very much, but I don't think this is how we're going to want to be launching or constructing product roadmaps in the future. This is just sort of how this one ended up happening for a variety of reasons.
It's super to tag on there again. Like, I agree that obviously I understand there's a lot of complexity in the product itself, and obviously there can be new bugs that pop up that push out the deadline. But like, I don't think the solution to that is just to not give any deadlines at all, because most product launches are always complicated. There's always unforeseen like things that can happen to push back something. But I think like if you communicate that straightforward, the community would maybe not necessarily completely understand, but it's better than not communicating at all, at least in my opinion. Like if the trade-off is between communicating it and then potentially having to push it back later and not communicating at all, I would rather have that communicated and potentially pushed back later. Like I think just leaving the community out completely in the dark it fosters a kind of like a very aggressive environment.
I hear your feedback and I appreciate you sharing that. From my perspective as someone who has played the role of, say, the microphone from the team going forward, and has seen kind of both sides of that, where, the team, if we missed a deadline or had to push something back, and, there's already internal disappointment around that. And then coupled with, the disappointment of, having to put the bandwidth in of, providing that update that we're pushing back, it adds bandwidth and stress to folks as well. It is kind of one point that I'd make on that. And I hear you that we do need to communicate better, just in general. That was something I tried to address with the status hub, and with trying to be as present as possible on the calls, and still being here to talk with folks in governance workshops and in on town halls, and as well as our announcements about partnerships and anything else that we can update on, whether it was the final audit coming through, or the X Rook contract going live, and or us testing on mainnet, or ending hiding game emissions that changed how things could be tested. I agree that you guys, from your perspective, it can be very challenging to kind of be waiting. So I don't want to discount your feedback at all.
I think you also have to keep in mind that we just got some brand new kick-ass marketing talent that onboarded only 3 weeks ago, aka Dean. I think making all the messages clear and solidified for that is super important, and he's been doing an amazing job of being just hitting the ground running and talking to the engineering team like me, and really understands the idea of marketing with both fear and greed. You know, targeting people that want to get paid to trade and people that want to just be protected from MEV. So there is a lot of stuff going on, and I think the launch is becoming stronger and stronger as time goes on. It's not just being delayed.
Thank you, G-Man. You're too kind. I would love to share with you in the Times Right community what we have. It's high quality and it's new categories, and we're looking to own them. Just building that out now. So we'll probably have a session dedicated to that when it's time.
Priest, was there anything else before we give Synth the floor?
Yeah, that's everything.
All right, thanks. Synth, go on ahead.
Sorry for that. But I will push back on that, Hazard, a little bit. Some of the examples you gave about devs not meeting deadlines, about Chainlink not adding staking, and when it comes to Chainlink, there is a working product, and staking would just be like icing on the cake for a lot of investors and community holders. And if that's being delayed, it's not the end of the world. But I think where the frustration for the community really comes in my conversations is that we're continuing to sunset products, and yet not release a deadline for the newest product that is going to be launched. And I think that's where some of the community members are getting fed up. And I think the lack of new deadline when old deadlines are passed is just adding to the frustration. And I know these things take time, and I do want Coordination Game to be the best that it can. But if people don't have end to end in sight, it's just going to be continual capitulation after capitulation, and I don't think it's going to be good to price action for all of us. But on a lighter note, I would like to ask Dean, what is, if you can't share some of the materials that you've been working on, what does a day-to-day look like for you? What have you been getting up to speed in terms of marketing? I'd love to hear about how the last few weeks have been treating you at KeeperDAO.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. So I wake up at 4:45, brush my hair, make a sandwich. No, I'm kidding. That's for the marketing. The first thing is the job. Look at the status quo, not just from a macroeconomic but our competitors' DeFi space. What success leaves clues? What does that look like? Who's doing well? What do they do? Who are they talking to? How are they talking? How do they articulate what their value proposition is? So first of all, being humble enough to look at leaders, and then also looking at what sucks and what not to do. Now you have two ends of the continuum, what success looks like and what you should definitely not do. And then further insights is auditing the messaging. The first thing I did was a competitor messaging analysis to find out who's saying what words are they using, what buzzwords. Because if we relaunch and use the same words, oh, you're just like Cow, you're just like Flashbots, but you do this. We don't want to be painted with the same brush. If we use the same words, we will be. So owning certain words, owning certain narratives, becoming painkillers rather than vitamins. Oh, it's nice to have, but CowSwap does it anyway. Oh, it's nice to have, but their UX is much more intuitive. So we don't want to do that. And it's important you don't build something in a vacuum. You look at the whole ecosystem you're going to have to compete in. So the first thing is auditing. And there's a lot of auditing to do. And then getting deep down into the granular part of it. What is it they do better? Why? Is it a first mover advantage? Is it just because they're top of mind? Is it because their UX is better? Do they own certain keywords? Are they just really good with memes? It's all of that stuff. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Thanks. Is this better?
Yeah, you're sounding good, Dean. Go ahead.
Apologies for that. That's much better. So, just doing the essential, boring auditing part first before we fall in love with what we've got. And it's normal, you just fall in love with what you've got. You can't wait to share with the world, but you've got to look at who you're competing against first and what they're doing and saying and who they're saying it to. So that's what we're doing now, analyzing, studying, auditing, benchmarking. So when we do release, we know what we can amplify and we should say, and what our, I don't want to say weaknesses, but I want to be honest with you. You can't be everything to everyone. And if you are, you'll be nothing to everyone. You can't. We have to go after the market that we are a painkiller for and what our technology solves. And the ultimate mandate being capital gains on the price, which is a complicated formula, not just being great at crypto Twitter. There's many elements to it. But that's the insights now. And then getting buy-ins, selling these ideas, talking to engineers. It's really important that we're not siloed. Engineers build it. We always say product, build it, marketing, promote it, sales, sell it. If these three don't talk, they're symbiotic. So, let's just make sure that we build that new culture and those lines of communication, that we are working close with product. We amplify what they're doing. Little things like there's psychological triggers to make things sticky in UX. And this is a product thing, but it's also marketing. So making sure we're looking at these things as well. And if we're putting, let's say MEV protection, well, does the market understand MEV? Which segment of the market understands it? So we shouldn't be talking about certain things if they don't. So I don't want to go into a huge amount of detail and bore everyone, but a lot of study to be humble and understand. So we launch from a position of a lot of knowledge rather than, we bet the farm on this and we hope that works. I hope that answers the question.
And Dean, I've seen you working from 5 a.m. to well past that while we're awake over here as well. I know you're grinding on this, and just saying that you've been an awesome expert level addition, and very excited to see your stuff come out.
Thank you,
I
Carl.
want to say one more thing to Synth and also to Priest, just to make very, very clear. This process of launching Coordination Game sucks. Like we need to learn some lessons from this and not do it again. If we can, to the extent that we can, we should course correct, I guess, before the launch. But in a way, it's by way of trying to give you an answer that's adequate, Priest. I would say that it's sort of not. Not to say that it's not worth it to communicate. It always is worth it to involve the community, but it's almost like not worth the effort to course correct and do a lot of introspection on this at this stage. If that helps you, maybe that's about as non-vague as I'll be about the launch window here. But we don't want to do this again. This is not how communication should work or have to work necessarily. So when I'm using these other examples that are imperfect examples, you're right to say that that's not. We shouldn't aspire to the worst of the examples. We should be aspiring to, set a better example. And I think that's absolutely possible here. And it's mostly, it's the vast majority of this that you're seeing, that you're experiencing, is just single-mindedness about the launch and trying to make it as big of a success as possible. And that actually does involve, when do we chat about when it could happen and stuff, and how do we bring the community into this and along with it. And so that's happening, and will happen, but that's not to say that this was. I'm not defending the way. I mean, I'm defending the approach from a purely utilitarian point of view of like, this is probably it's probably a little too late to sort of rethink this from the ground up, but that does not mean that I agree that this is the right way to do it. I'm not defending that. I don't think it is. I think it's kind of annoying. It's very annoying for everybody, and it's just that there's not a better alternative at hand that is really gonna making me confident that it wouldn't cause trouble in some other way. That said, we do have people looking at this and these continued conversations about this and touching on these points from Priest, you and Synth, as well as others who've brought this up, I think is helpful and is causing people to look at this more closely and make sure that that's something that's incorporated into this better.
Thanks, Hazard. Appreciate you adding some clarity there. All right. It looks like there wasn't more follow up there. Hazard, did you want to provide?
I wanted to say one other thing. Actually, I said that this launch sucks. The process of launching it is sort of like giving birth. It sucks in that respect, but I do want to say, because we don't talk about this enough, the actual product and the marketing stuff and some of the stuff is actually, I mean, it is awesome. So I don't, it's almost like we don't want to screw it up because we're like, damn, we better do this justice. So that's a lot of what's going on as well. So it's not that it's like, man, we better keep working on this because it still sucks. It's the other way around. We want to make sure that we're doing this justice because it's like, yeah, looking good. Sorry, Kyle, you were going to say something else.
I was really actually just going to force the microphone right back over to you. If you wanted to talk anything else about the Q1 update or the KIP12 extension draft as well.
Yes. Okay. So there, like I mentioned at the Wednesday meeting, we did sort of a quarterly review, and there's KIP12 extension that's on the forum. There haven't been any comments, so it's sort of hard to review it or bring it to a vote. So I'd ask that what other comments there are or would be, or what sentiment is on something like that. If you have thoughts, which hopefully you do, either leave them on the forum. You can come up here. You can talk about it, chat about it, and if there's more information that you'd want to see from the quarterly report, or other information that you'd want to see or need to see in order to kind of really, I don't know, feel that you could make an informed assessment, would you want to talk about that as well? Or doesn't have to be now, it could be now. And then, sense for what kind of timeline would be good for, an extension like that. It's sort of not something I'm going to push super hard because obviously a little bit of a conflict of interest there, but do want to focus people's attention on, for example, the fact that we can't onboard new contributors really until we would either have an extension or some other arrangement determined, and there's a variety of other things as well. So the ball is essentially in everybody's court, I guess, or in the community court. It's DAO's court. So if you have thoughts and takeaways, or you need more information or have more questions, please be asking those and leaving those comments.
Yeah, so if anyone's got anything now, you're welcome to raise your hand, share some thoughts, questions, feedback on that. If not, we can have that work happen a little asynchronously, and we can actually work this towards a close if no one has any other topics that need to be discussed here. All right. Well, we'll go on ahead and draw this one to a close. Just want to give a quick shout out. Thanks to Matt for coming talking up about ETH staking. I think there's some awesome opportunities coming from the work he's doing. And if you want to collaborate with him, please connect with Matt. I know that he's excited to keep that moving forward and looking for community input on ETH staking and productive treasury. Another huge shout out, Dean. Thanks for coming up. I know it's early. Go get some breakfast or something. Stretch your legs a little bit. G-Man, thanks for coming up as well. And Hazard, appreciate you stopping by as well. Troy, happy to always have you up here with me. Yeah, so we'll go on ahead and draw this one to a close. And yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you again next week for more governance workshop, more town halls. I actually might even have an AMA coming up next week, solidifying some dates for that as well. So again, thanks you all. Yeah, we'll continue to keep churning away and appreciate you all joining us. So have a good start to your weekend, everybody.